Salomon calls the Aero Volt their wild child, all-urban runner. Does it live up to that description? Let's find out. Guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my review of Salomon's Aero Volt. Now, this is the third in the Aero family to be released this year. We first had the Aero Glide, then the Aero Blaze, and now the Aero Volt. And the Aero Volt is the lightest trainer out of all three. And this is the one that I have most looked forward to. Mainly because as we're coming into summer, a light shoe, a breathable shoe is something that I really value. First of all, the Salomon Aero Volt will cost you $150. I think that price is right in line. Obviously, we want shoes to be a little cheaper, but for what you're getting with the Salomon Aero Volt, I don't think $150 is overpriced. We have 32mm in the heel, 24 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Now, Salomon claims that a US men's size 9 will tip the scale at 7.7 ounces or 213 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, it tips the scale at 9.5 ounces or 270 grams. So it is a pretty light shoe. Now, this is a neutral daily trainer, but because it is so light, I'd say it can tip towards the faster runs. You know, those tempo efforts, maybe even intervals. Now, there is no plate in it. We just have the midsole foam. But if you like that traditional feel, by traditional, I mean non-plated feel, this is light enough where it can do the job if you want to pick up the pace. But for me, this is going to be a lightweight daily trainer. Okay, you know the drill. Let's start at the top. We'll work our way down. After we talk about the materials, what's in the shoe, we'll talk about the ride. And because Salomon has made this a lot lighter than their previous Aero shoes, we're using a lot less materials, different materials too. But first of all, let's look at that heel collar. You can see it's quite thin. It definitely reminds me of the thickness of Saucony shoes, and I like it. It's like the right amount of padding. A lot of times when a shoe is a daily trainer, they tend to overdo the padding around the heel collar. Sometimes it can look like a Michelin Man because it's so bulbous around your ankle. This is not nice and thin, just the right amount, you know? The heel counter is nice and firm. I mean, really firm. There is no movement in that heel counter. I couldn't push that down if I wanted, and I did get a good heel lockdown in the Salomon Aero Volt. And the upper material is really the star of the show. That is what they have changed with this shoe. And when I say changed, it's the first Aero Volt that Salomon has ever made. I mean, it's just a little different from other Salomon shoes. And it is super light. I don't want to say it's wispy because it's quite a firm mesh, but it is a single layer mesh. And when you're looking at it, it does look like I don't know, it doesn't look as airy as it is, but I'm holding it up and I can see the light shining right through the upper. It is beautifully light. And because it's so light, it really does optimize the airflow, and it's good for temperature management. And, you know, we're coming into the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, and a lot of times we go out and it's warm and the feet start to get hot. We don't want that constricting blanket-like upper that we see on a lot of other daily trainers. The upper on the Aero Volt is going to keep you nice and aerated, keeping your feet nice and cool. Or in my case, because I live in Florida and it is just way too hot outside to remain cool, when I soak this shoe with sweat on my runs, it's going to dry really quickly. And by the feel of it, doesn't feel like it's going to hold on to a lot of moisture. Of course, because we are just coming into summer, during my testing time, I haven't had a chance to actually go out and soak these shoes with sweat. But don't worry, it's coming. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't think this shoe is going to hold on to a lot of weight. The tongue is super thin. If we do consider this a daily trainer or an up-tempo daily trainer, the tongue is thinner than we see on other competitors. Now, there is a little bit of padding on each side, and the tongue is quite wide, and there seems to be a lot of it. Kind of like an iceberg. There's a lot of tongue beneath the surface of the shoe. Now, the tongue is not gusseted, but we do have a lace loop right in the center, which does help prevent that tongue migration. However, I did find that putting my foot into the Aero Volt does take just a little extra attention because that tongue is so wide on the inside, it does kind of wrap around your foot, and when you get it in nice, you can really feel that everything's smooth and your foot feels hugged. But if you don't put your foot in right, that tongue can kind of overlap and double up on top of your foot, so you can get a little bit of pressure. Just take the extra time to make sure your foot is seated right and that tongue kind of covers your top of your foot. Now, there are not a lot of overlays on the Aero Volt. We've got this piece right here with a Salomon logo just on the lateral side, and of course along the eyelet chain, just to keep that nice and secure. But we do have a lot of underlays, and we have the underlay coming right around the toe. And if you look from the top, right here on the top of the toe, you can see it's kind of striped like a tiger, and these are all underlays that are underneath the mesh, just giving the mesh a little bit of support. And that underlay support structure comes along both sides of the shoe, and that's actually Salomon's SensiFit system. Basically, the SensiFit system just kind of cradles your foot. So when you lock down the laces and you get a good lockdown across the midfoot, it's because that SensiFit system is kind of conforming to the shape of your foot and just helps pull everything together, so it feels like a custom fit. And I don't know what I think about it being a custom fit, but I do know that I like the SensiFit system. This and other Salomon shoes, it just really seems to work, getting me a good feel when I lace up these shoes and I really cinch them down so I can go for a run without any movement. It does strike me as a lot of marketing hype, but it does also seem to work, so I can't complain too much. Oh, one more thing about the tongue. You can see that the tongue is just it's It's a solid material on the top. This is where the little bit of padding is. And also as we come down, it's a very open mesh. And just like the rest of the upper around the front of the foot, that's just gonna give you a little more option for air to flow in and keep your feet nice and cool. Now, while we're up here talking about the tongue and the eyelet chain and everything that goes with it, let's just take a minute to talk about the laces, because I've got a bit of a problem with the laces. Let me just pull them up and show you. Look at this. Can I even get them on the camera, because I don't think my lens is wide enough, but this is a lot of lace. This is a lot of lace for a shoe. I double lace them. We have to double lace them. We're not going to take any wild chances with our shoelaces coming untied. But in the Aero Volt, I found that I actually have to triple knot my shoes in order to use up enough of the lace. And even when I triple knot my shoes, there is still a lot of lace flopping around on my foot. So I don't know if Salomon is actually going to be listening to the reviews of their shoes, but if on the off chance that someone from the Salomon design team is watching, I think you could probably take off, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 inches, and you'd still have plenty of lace length left for absolutely everyone. Put this lace back in the shoe and come down to the midsole. Salomon is using their energy foam. Now, we have seen the same energy foam in the Aero Glide and the Aero Blaze. It's the same EVA OBC formulation. And this midsole foam provides a very satisfying ride. And guys, I want to tell you that when you first put your foot into this shoe, you go out for your first run, it's going to feel a little firm. Well, I guess it depends on what you've run in before you run in the Aero Volt or the Aero Glide or the Aero Blaze. But generally speaking, Salomon's energy foam is a little on the firm side. However, it is not so firm that you can't go out for hours at a time and the shoe still feels good. I think it is the right amount of firmness where you get a good feeling, you get a good amount of road feel, and it still provides more than enough protection from the road. Now, if you like to sink into a shoe, if you like a plush ride, if you like a ride where it's like you're running on marshmallows every time, this probably is not going to be the shoe for you. But if you like to run and you like to feel your run, you like to be in touch with the ground to actually feel like you're moving forward, I think the energy foam is a great option for you on any of the Aero shoes, but especially the Aero Volt. That's what we're focusing on today. And I really hope I'm not doing the shoe a disservice, and I hope I'm not putting anyone off by saying that it's firm, because firm has such negative connotations. But if you are thinking of the Aero Volt, I would highly encourage you to pick up this shoe and give it a go before you make up your mind. Even if you usually gravitate to softer, more plush shoes, which I definitely do, I haven't experienced any issues when I'm running in the Aero Volt that puts me off. In fact, I'm going away for a couple of weeks, and the Aero Volt is going to be on my short list for shoes that I'm going to take with me, mainly because it is just so light, it's so versatile. I can take it out for long runs, I can pick up the pace and do slightly faster work. It's really a good all-rounder. But listen, we're going to talk about ride in just a second. Let's come down to the outsole. Salomon is using their road contra grip, and you can see by looking at it, it's kind of like a camo print. The outsole has been marbled just to give it a little attitude. I think it looks really good. Now, generally speaking, I'm really not a fan of camo anything, but I am enjoying it on the outsole of this shoe. I think it goes really well with the orange. It's kind of like your camo gear and your safety orange vest. And by the way, technically, this is an orange. It's the turmeric, fiery red, and blue radiance colorway. It's a solid looking shoe, isn't it? Now, you're probably noticing this big valley coming through the bottom. This is Salomon's geometric decoupling. And basically, yes, it's going to provide a little weight savings just because we're carving out some of that midsole. We're using less outsole rubber. But the main reason for it is to provide just a little bit of guidance. And that guidance is going to encourage much smoother heel to toe transitions. And yeah, I guess it works. The shoe feels pretty smooth. Now let's talk about ride. Now, the longest run that I've put in during my testing before I sat down to make this video has been a half marathon. And that wasn't a half marathon at race pace. It was just going out for an easy run for a half marathon distance. And when I came back from that, my body felt good, my legs felt fresh, or as fresh as they feel after running for that distance. But they didn't feel beat up because of the shoes. My feet felt good, my feet felt comfortable, my feet felt coolish. I think the shoe has plenty of room in the midfoot and the forefoot, enough for my toes to kind of splay out a little, but I still had a good lockdown, and the volume was spot on for me. I didn't have to cinch those eyelet chains too close together. That's my way of seeing if the volume is right for me. And the heel area locked down my heel nicely. I didn't have 1 ounce of heel slip, and I'm assuming that Salomon knows that you are not going to experience any heel slip in the Aero Volt because they have not provided the extra little hole for the lace lock method. But for me, at least, it doesn't matter. I didn't need it. So yeah, I have really been enjoying the Salomon Aero Volt. I think this is a solid option if you like Salomon shoes, or if you haven't run in Salomon shoes. I think the Aero series is a great series to start with. And this is the Salomon Aero Glide. I've put a lot of volume in this shoe. This is more the max cushion version. I think this has 37.5 in the heel. So the Aero Volt just has a slightly lower stack height, slightly lower drop, 8mm versus 10mm. And all in all, the Aero Volt just feels a little lower profile, a little faster. Seems like you can do a few more things with this shoe. Oh, and by the way, the shoe is sustainably made. It's made using recycled products. So that is always something that we can get behind, right? All right, guys, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever run in a Salomon shoe? If you have you ever run in the Aero series? Is this the shoe that you would think about buying moving forward? With that, my name's Matt B. This has been my review of Salomon's Aero Volt. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.